Welcome to the Alignment Blueprint. I'm your host, Callie. I'm a holistic life and business strategist. I also happen to be extremely passionate about holistic healing and growth. With over 13 years of experience, I've worked with clients from all walks of life. I also know living an authentically aligned life in business and in health can be a little overwhelming. I'm here to break it down for you and take you on my journey to authentic alignment. Remember, the materials and content within this podcast are intended as general information only and are not to be considered a substitute for medical advice or treatment. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. I am here with Melanie. Melanie, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you for being here. It's an honor for me to have you. We just actually had I had some realizations about you that I didn't know prior, and I'm really excited, even more so than I already was, to talk to you today.
That's exciting. Yeah, God's good like that.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Introduce yourself, where your story started, your journey started, whatever you feel called to share.
Yeah. So my name is Melanie Wilson. I am born and raised in Delaware, but we currently live in Southwest Florida. We've been here. September will be 4 years since we've been here, and it has been a beautiful journey. I love seeing how God orchestrates his plan and how he is truly present in every detail, because where we're living now and what I'm doing in my ministry, my practice truly is a testimony to God's glory and his promise to fulfill his promises. So I have a long history of anxiety, depression, PTSD. I am choosing sober living. I am living in recovery from an opioid addiction. I have been rescued and restored from a failed suicide attempt, sexual assault, and all of those things felt as though they had not only unqualified me to be used by God, but took it to the next level and actually disqualified me to be used by God. And as I sit here today, Callie, it really is confirmation that God is who he says he is, and he will take all of it and use it for good. And now I get to be a true voice for women who are silenced. I get to be the hands and feet for God. I get to use my story for his glory and help other women who are in similar circumstances that I once was see that there is hope and light, and where you are is temporary and you can get to the other side. And on the other side of your circumstance is blessings and joy and healing and restoration and all these beautiful things that he has designed for your life.
I absolutely adore everything you just said, and I have so many questions. I don't know if you saw me, if I'm looking down, it's because I'm making notes, and I just wrote so many notes so fast.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
So my first question would be, how did you go from unqualified and disqualified to be used by God to now sharing this message?
It really has been an evolution.
Shift.
It is. It is. And I think one of the important things to understand is not only is it a big shift, it's not you go to bed unqualified, disqualified, and you wake up and all of a sudden here you are walking in your purpose, because that's not what happens. And I think so many women quit because it gets hard, it gets messy. Sometimes it feels even worse before they actually get to the beauty from the ashes. And I have been called to teach and impact lives. I know that that is my purpose in some fashion. I have always done that my entire life, whether it's dancing, coaching volleyball, horses, business. It's always been what I've done. But I had no idea that all of the temporary assignments were preparing me for the anointing for the ultimate assignment that he had for my life. So I am now a sobriety and Christian mental health coach. And that is so important to me and so valuable to me, because people think that when you are sober, that life is good. And yes, you can choose sobriety, but you need to be living in recovery to really experience wholeness and healing. And I've always had God in my life. I went to Catholic school, but I never understood what it meant to have a relationship with him. Game changer. And it was during my failed suicide attempt, as I laid there in that emergency room, where Psalm came to life for me, Psalm 42, where he actually reached down into that dark pit and I had a choice to grab his hand. He called me to look up. He pulled me from that dark pit and set me on solid ground. And every day since then, November 15th, 2015, I've been choosing to show up, dig in, do the hard work in my life, but I'm also making sure to extend a hand and bring other women with me. Because if you are not focused on your mental health, you're going to be focused on trying to cope and numb with mental illness. And without God, it's not possible. And I just want people to know, women specifically, because that's women are my passion, that they are loved, that they are worthy, that they are chosen, and he loves you, period. There are no conditions. And I felt unqualified and then disqualified because here I am abusing drugs. Here I am chasing after all of these things to fill this void in me that was his place. Here I am in a marriage that was crumbling and just unhealthy and abusive and unfulfilling and full of resentment and anger and all of these things going on. And he was with me every step of the way. And when I stand here today and look back, I'm like, there he was, there he was, there he was. So not only am I restored as far as my mental health, I still live with anxiety, depression, PTSD, but I'm able to manage in a healthy way. I don't drink alcohol. Alcohol was never my problem. It was opioids. But alcohol became something that I would use to wash the pills down to give me just that little extra buzz, high, numbing. So I don't drink alcohol at any point at all anymore. And I'm noticing now my husband doesn't either, and neither do my daughters. So what you do is not only for you, it's for the people around you that you may not even know are taking notice of what you're doing. And these were all really valuable things in my life. And January, we celebrate 30 years of marriage, and it is flirtatious and fun and playful. And he'll grab my butt in the kitchen and, come up and kiss my neck as I'm leaning over the sink, brushing my teeth, and just these beautiful parts of it that I didn't know were possible because I was so focused on what I had done wrong, what had been done wrong to me, and feeling as though because of those things that God was nowhere around, and he couldn't have been closer, couldn't have been closer.
Yeah, I agree with that. Again, so many things I want to say and ask, but one thing I want to say is I quit drinking regularly many, almost a year ago now. I won't say that I never drink, but I don't drink regularly anymore like I used to. And it was also it wasn't the alcohol for me, it was the utilizing drugs that I struggled with, because the alcohol made it easier to be brave enough to ask for the drugs. And it was more socially acceptable, I guess. But when I stopped doing that, which I don't do drugs at all, don't touch them. We'll never touch them again. But when I stopped drinking regularly, I noticed a waterfall effect with my friends and my family as well. So like, they don't drink. Before, it was every social event we had to have alcohol at it.
Yes.
And now it's like, and they almost ask me like, Callie, is it okay if I have a beer? And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. It's your life. It's not going to bother me. But before, it would have been multiple, like we'd be sit there all day and have beers and beers and beers. And now I don't drink at social events. And it's just nice to see my mom like implementing that into her life as well, where she'll not drink at social events. She doesn't feel like she has to, or she'll have like one beer or something like that. And it's just very different. So that waterfall effect from your life into other people's lives I see that in my experience as well. And I love that. So my question would be, because you said about the work, you do the work, you've done the work, you're doing it still. What is some of the work that you do, if you want to share it? Like, for instance, for me, is journaling a lot. I like to journal and do a lot of self-care every day. But mine started with journaling, with my spiritual awakening, where I connected to God in the hospital after a suicidal ideation that was overwhelming me. And I'm just interested to know what your work is.
Yeah. So it's how I built my program, because traditional therapy didn't work for me. And never do I want to bash traditional therapy. Never do I want to kind of plant a seed that traditional therapy is not valuable, because it absolutely is. And I support it, and I love when women are doing it and it's working. But what happens when it's not working? And that was the position that I was in. I was going to a licensed therapist, but he was also the pastor at church. So there was that biblical foundation, which was key, because the other traditional therapists in the secular space, that almost cost me my life, because the guidance was, okay, yes, you're in a marriage that is not healthy. Here's an attorney that can help you get a divorce. Instead of, okay, what does God say about the marriage? Let's start there, and understanding what that looks like. So I kept going in and having these conversations. Then I got to the point where, like, I'm tired of sitting here every week on this couch talking about the same things. What can I be doing in between these sessions to learn and grow and challenge and come back to you with a report to say, this is working, this isn't working, or this is what I discovered? And they literally looked at me like a deer in headlights. Read your Bible, journal. Great advice. What am I reading in the Bible? And when I read it, what am I doing with it? Okay, journaling, great idea. Are there specific prompts? What am I journaling? Like, I needed specific detail. So I created the program that I used in my own life, and I started sharing it. And then that's how the Rise Up Breakdowns to Breakthrough coaching program was established. And journaling is very beneficial, but for a lot of clients, journaling is terrifying. To sit down and look at a blank page, like, I'd rather walk in oncoming traffic. This is terrifying. So I actually designed a journal of positivity, which is one of the gifts that new clients get in the program. And it's the sweetest little journal. It's super tiny. I don't know if you can see it or not. Super tiny, but it takes all the guesswork out, and it gives you prompts. Then it says, Google a Bible verse, find a Bible verse that's kind of speaking to you. And then, what is this Bible verse saying to you? Why is it resonating with you? And you start to master the skill of journaling. And then you don't need the prompts. Then you can sit down and write out your thoughts, write out your prayers, write out, the things that you're struggling with, and just get it outside of you. Because once it's outside of you, then it's in the light, and the enemy can no longer use it as a secret, a hold on you. So journaling is a big thing. A lot of somatic exercises that I'm teaching, because when people feel anxious, they automatically will surrender to it, and then they'll go for those default quick reactive fixes: a drink, a pill, sex, shopping, gambling, binging, these functional freeze techniques, and all these things that are unhealthy. So when you feel anxious, we're not going to deny it. We're not going to suppress it and send it away. We're going to say, oh, hey, hi, anxiety, I see that you're here, and work through it in a healthy way, because everyone has anxiety. But for those of us who are diagnosed, anxiety then levels up to a point where it interferes with our ability to live life. That's when anxiety is a problem. And we need to have healthy strategies to cope. So somatic exercises are things that I teach. And there's a lot of reflecting and mind-body awareness. There's a lot of trauma-informed work that we're doing. I'm a certified cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner. So a lot of thinking work, re-engineering. Where do these core beliefs come from? What is it rooted in? Let's undo it, re-engineer it, reframe it, because it all begins with a thought. If you're thinking it, then you'll become it. Good, bad, or ugly. If you're thinking it, you will become it, and you'll gravitate towards people, places, and things that support whatever it is you're thinking. And these techniques and tools that I'm teaching and then holding you accountable for in the program help you to break free from those things. So then you feel confident. And I'm telling you, a confident woman, a confident wife, a confident mom, a confident sister, like, look out, look out, because we're coming for you. So those are some of the things that I use for the work in my own life, as well as what I do with my clients.
So did these practices kind of build up over time, or were they just all like brought to you from God at one time, or how did that work?
They were all divine downloads where it came directly from God. Like, talk to me. Okay, what does that look like? And then, I would kind of feel the desire to grab a pen and paper and write. It's important to understand that, like I said in the beginning of the call, you don't get from where you are to where you're called to be overnight. Like, it takes time. So with my process, each week I was going in and say, okay, so I sat down and I looked at this Bible verse, and this is what it meant to me. Am I getting this right? Am I taking it out of context to make it mean what I need it to mean? Or is this what God is intending? Help me understand it. And it just continued to build, where now I have all these key components that we work through. There's still flexibility. There's still, the structure and accountability and personalization, but like that core foundation of what needs to be there is in place. Because if we don't have that, then it's this hodgepodge where we're picking and choosing. And that's when women get overwhelmed because they're not seeing results. So it came in incremental steps, building time and time again. And they were always these divine downloads where I just felt this strong, undeniable clarity and nudge to do a specific thing. And sometimes I would just do it out of obedience. Like, this doesn't really make sense. Like, why am I going to go outside in my bare feet? It's raining. But okay, I'm going to do it. And then I get out there and I'm like, I feel peace. I feel grounded. Like, that thought, that anxiety, I don't even know where it is at this point, So learning to be obedient to what feels undeniable in our spirit is so important. And that's all just intricately woven into what I do, who I am, and how I serve.
I love that, because I live by that. If it's a full body, like, yes, then I want to do it. If there is any ounce of like ick or no,
Yeah.
I can't do it. And I help my clients as far as their businesses go in the same kind of way, where I'm like, if this is a full body yes, then it's, you need to do it. And like with their business, I try to remind them this was a gift from God, universe, that was brought to you specifically, and you're the one that's meant to bring it to life. Because otherwise it would have been brought to someone else, and it's really a gift to us.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I wanted to get into, and it's kind of a shift, but not really, because it's all pertinent to what we're talking about, but you've written 2 books. Can you tell me about the first one? And then we'll get into the second one. But I'm very interested in both, but I really want to hear more about the first one, because this is new to me, that knowing this about you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the title of it's behind me here. Wait, this side.
Yeah.
It's Unsilenced: Suicide Saved Me, the Gift of Breaking Free. And this was a pure act of obedience, but you talk about timeline. So 2015, God kept saying, write your story. And I just very politely said, no. And years upon years, like, he kept nudging. And sometimes I'd be out walking and a full chapter would download, like it would just flow and be so beautiful. But I'm walking and I've got praise music playing and just being in nature, and I didn't write it down. Then I would get back and try to write it down, and I couldn't remember any of it. So I was like, no. And in the book, you'll learn that I was labeled a below average reader. So I loathed anything that had to do with writing and reading. And I was a dancer, and I told my mom, I'm not going to need to read. Reading is stupid. I'm going to be a dancer all my life. Like, can we just stop? And she was adamant about getting me really good tutors. I did eventually learn to read. It has always been a struggle. It is still a struggle for me, but I'm aware of it and I know how to adapt accordingly. So, I mean, I always have highlighters and pens and, things to dog ear and notes and all those things, because that's how I retain the information. So here I go from being labeled a below average reader to God saying, let me blow your mind. That's not who I say you are. And he turned me into an international best-selling author. So, and when I say that, I don't say that to impress you. I say that to impress upon you, like, whatever label is that you're ascribing to, that's your choice. But I'm telling you that when you lay it at the foot of the cross, he's going to take it and he's going to blow your mind. He is going to blow your mind. And this book took 7 years before it actually became a book. And I went through the process of it, and it was very cathartic for me. The editor, Richard, that I worked with, he is the publisher for that book. He's also the publisher for the second book. And then he invited me to co-author on a third book. So I have 3 books out. He allowed me to write everything. And then he would say, Mel, this is beautiful, but this is yours. You've given it life, but this doesn't go in the book. This is just for you. This is between you and God. And I needed that because I want to be raw and authentic, but that doesn't mean I have to expose everything. You don't need to know what size underwear I wear. And, like those are intimate details. You don't need to know about the things that happen with my husband and I in the bedroom. And you don't need to know that. But I needed to give it life to build that confidence and belief that I could write without limits, and that he would help me navigate what's appropriate for the world to get. So this book is raw and unfiltered. I mean, it has, from the intervention to, my anxiety got so bad that I couldn't be without my kids. So I literally would send a text to my daughter and say, hey, ghost whisper. And she would respond, yes. I would go pick her up from school, bring her home. And my husband didn't know this. I would bring her home. We'd sit on the couch for hours watching Ghost Whisper. She was responsible for being my calm. So all of these things are in that book. And suicide ideation was always in the back of my mind. And suicidal thoughts for everyone is completely normal. There's nothing wrong with you. It is normal. So are thoughts like, oh, I wish I could kill that person. Like, that's normal. But it's when it moves from passive to active that it's a problem. Just like I said, everybody has anxiety. But when it gets to the point that it is preventing you from living your life, it's a problem. And I started planning it. So in 2015, I executed a plan. There were a lot of contributing factors, which all the details are in my book. And this book has now become a lifeline for a lot of women because they didn't know all of these things about me, and it makes me so relatable. And now there's so much hope because they're like, shoot, like she gets it. She was there. She gets it. And just recently, a girl that I had met, I mean, we're not in a lot of interaction together, but her mom committed suicide on July 29th. And I said, hey, I'm going to sell my books. 100% of the proceeds are going to go towards your GoFundMe to help with the financial burden that you're carrying. She's like, oh, are you serious? I'm like, absolutely. Because the book was not written for financial gain for me, because books don't do that. Let me just make that clear. They don't do that. But to get that story in the hands of other people to either help them better understand the position that her mom was in, or maybe they're in that position and it helps them understand how to communicate what's going on, all of those things. So the book is powerful. It's heavy. I still get goosebumps when someone says, hey, I'm reading your book, because now it's in writing. But I also know that it was what God wanted. I anointed my computer, my office, my chair, my desk. And I was like, God, here I am. Here's all of me. Use it. What do you want me to write? And I just wrote. And so it became what it is because of that obedience.
Have you heard? Authentic Alignment, the Business Accelerator, is open for enrollment. In this small, tight-knit container of like-minded female entrepreneurs, you will gain the foundation and growth to start or scale your woman-owned business to one of wild abundance. With weekly calls, our specialized healing component, individualized support, and lifetime access, we have co-created a container like no other. Feeling the call? We are here and we are waiting for you. Need more one-on-one support? Rise Up, my 6-month life and business mentorship, is accepting applications. This is a container where impact meets income. Have questions? Head to my website, callitony.com/riseup.
Amazing. I got chills when you were talking about it, so I can feel how impactful it is.
Yeah.
And I feel so sad for that woman who lost her mom, but I think it's valuable for, hopefully for her to read that book and see where she's at. Because I think a lot of times for me in my life, dealing with suicidal ideations, people didn't understand where I was.
Yeah.
And that was hard. And I kept it a secret for so long that I felt like that. And when I finally told people, they were like, well, can you just go to therapy? Or can you do this or that, or take a pill? And I was like, I'll do all those things, but honestly, that's not what helped. What helped was really getting in touch with myself and At the time, I was nervous to say God, honestly,
Yeah.
because it was a foreign thing for me. So I always use the word universe, but getting in touch with God and really leaning into the fact that I was meant to be here for a reason.
Hmm.
And everything that happened, I believe, for me and not to me, and brought me to exactly where I am today. And I'm very proud to say that I love the woman I am today. And I love what
Oh,
I've been through
yeah.
because it made me who I am now.
Yeah.
Um, so where can people get that book?
So
Is
it's
it on
available on
Amazon?
Amazon. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
All
just
three of
wanted
the
to make
books are available on Amazon. And
wonderful.
I also wrote, I don't have, I'm sold out of them, but I also wrote a deep dive journal that you have to get through me. It's not on Amazon that
Okay.
supports the book. At the end of each chapter, there are questions because I didn't want this to be a book where they read like, oh, I wanted to be like, oh, okay. Like let it ignite something into you and then what's next. So there's questions at the end of each chapter to get you thinking. And then the deep dive journal supplements it. So it has all those questions, but it's designed in a way that you can do the journey with you and God, or you can get a group of girlfriends together for like a book club and go through and do this journey together. It tells you the prayer to say, the worship song to pray, how to work through the questions, how to close out, because I'm all about equipping, empowering, and inspiring women to take one step forward. And each time they take a step, the more confident they become. And like I said, a confident woman, look out, like we're coming for you, you know? So it's available on Amazon. And then, I mean, in there, everywhere, my cell phone number, message me, like I'm here. I don't want to know that there's a woman suffering and she had my information in her hands and didn't think she could contact me. Reach out. Like, I don't care what time it is. I don't care what you got going on, what you think. If you just need someone to listen, I'm here. And I think so many of us need that. And I needed that and I didn't have it. So that's how She'll Rise Sisterhood was born. I created, and in the book, I teach you how to create a sisterhood, a community. Like you need it. So be her, become her, create it, and then just watch what God does with your obedience. It's incredible.
So this is a question mostly from I think I know what you're saying when you say obedience, but again, this is me coming from a more ignorant state of mind where I've never had a relationship with God until I had my stay in the hospital for suicidal ideations. And that's when I developed a relationship. So can you just emphasize like what that means to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of times people will very haphazardly throw terms around like, oh, I hope and pray that this happens, and not really understanding the power of these words. And it's funny because if you talk to any woman who's part of She'll Rise, I don't let you use the word trying, will, wish, hope, maybe. Like I want definitive words. I'm trying leaves the opening for throwing in the towel, quitting, walking away. When you say I'm doing, that's about power and authority, and that takes obedience. So obedience comes from this fervent fear of the Lord, and it's about respect. It's about understanding that this is who He says you are. He has equipped you. He hasn't given you a spirit of fear, but one of power and love and self-control. So, and that's 2 Timothy 1:7. It's empowered to know those things because when you don't know what to do, obedience keeps you focused on Him and who He says you are. And somehow you bridge the gap from worry to confident to take the step. So when you talked about if it feels like a whole body yes, and you don't do it, that's disobedience. If you do it, that's obedience. So we always have a choice. God gave us the gift of free will. And I always tell everybody when I get to heaven, I'm going to be like, can we talk about this free will thing? Because I don't know if that was a good idea. But He gives us the gift of free will because He doesn't want us to do it because we fear Him in an unhealthy way. He wants us to do it because He loves us so much. And what He has for us is always better than anything that we could ever come up with on our own. But it takes obedience to let go of what we think, to grab a hold of what can be, It's believing in what we can't see and the obedience to move forward in that. So, and you said you're ignorant, and that's not really the case. It's just an immaturity. You know, when you look at a child early on, they don't come out walking. They have to stumble and fall and be immature and ill-equipped to build, to learn to walk. It's the same thing with our spiritual walk with God. When we first start, we are stumbling, we are making mistakes. Sometimes we screw it up, but he's like, that's okay. I'm right here. Get back up, rise again. Micah 7:8, though I fall, I will rise again. Keep getting up, keep going. And eventually you won't intertwine God and universe. You'll be very bold and courageous to say God, because the universe is his gift to us. Life is his gift to us, and how we choose to live it is our gift to him. So very powerful.
I love that. And I love you saying it's an immaturity instead of ignorance, because
Yeah.
I am much newer in my relationship with God.
Mhm.
And I do hold myself back from saying God and say universe because of that immaturity with it.
Mhm.
And it's not like, and I think people could look at immaturity and think that it's a bad thing.
Right.
And I think it's just the start of a journey, and it's just like being a child is not a bad thing, like you said. It's
Yeah.
just learning and growing as you go and getting more confident in that part of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really like that look at it, because it makes me feel more powerful. And I love that you say that you're cutting, like you have clients cut out the words that are kind of like leaving up for interpretation or
Yeah.
guessing or whatever, because I always use the word just.
Yep. That's another
Like,
one.
oh, I'm just a holistic life and business strategist. I'm just this, I'm just that. I'm not just anything. I'm
Nope.
Callie. I am this, I am that. And I am a powerful being that was brought here to have a powerful message. So
Yep.
I'm trying to get that just word out.
Oh,
but
you just use trying.
I am getting that just word out.
That's
I am
exactly
getting
right.
that just word out. But I catch myself occasionally
Yeah.
still typing it, and then I'll like, nope, delete, 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 delete. We're not
Yeah.
justing anymore. And I'm gonna not try anymore. I'm gonna do it. I'm
That's
doing it.
exactly right.
I
That's
love
exactly
that.
right.
I love
Yeah.
that so much. Do you have time to tell me about your second book? 'Cause I'd love to
Yeah,
hear about it.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So Perfectly Placed, Be Where Your Feet Are. This was a co-author collective. So when I was going through the journey of writing my own book, the editor was reading some of the testimonials from clients that I included in the book. And he was like, you know, they have a story too. And I'm like, I know, everybody has a story, and it's a gift, and it deserves to be unwrapped and told and shared. And he's like, you know, what do you think about doing a co-author? And I said, well, it's funny you should mention that, because I've been thinking, like, I keep crossing paths with women, whether it's over social media in some form or fashion, or working with a woman one-to-one, where I'm like, you need to write. Like, that's the next step, is to put it into writing and put it out there and let the world see what God has done in your life. And so that's how the whole concept for me of a co-author collective was born. And I was very, very strategic in the women that I selected to write. So lots of women applied, but I didn't select every woman, because it had to be aligned. And I know alignment is a key thing for you. It had to be aligned with a underlying message of God is a keeper of promises. This is who I was. Because of him, this is who I am. And this is what I'm choosing to do as a result. So you see the evolution, and everything in this co-author collective. You've got, you know, anxiety, depression, abusive marriage, eating disorders, suicide, fatal injuries, and just these things that they weren't fatal injuries, injuries that felt fatal, where, okay, my life is turned upside down, now what, kind of thing. And all of these stories are so diverse, but the beauty of the journey through Perfectly Placed helps you see that maybe you're not stuck. Maybe you are perfectly placed, and God is saying, look, trust me, be where your feet are, and then let him be God. And the stories in this book, there are 14 women that wrote in this book with me. It's so moving and emotional. And for a lot of them, it was a dream to write, but they didn't know how to start, where to begin. And doing it with a collective there's this sense of safety and community and fellowship going through it together. And then you build these connections with these women. And then now it's like, okay, when's the next one? Like, I want to do it again. And I've got women that are now in touch writing their own books. So it's so beautiful when you take that step of obedience to put it out there. Don't let the fear govern you. You say, okay, I'm going to face it. And here it is. It's also available on Amazon. We are now currently building the volume 2. I haven't actively put it out there to put the opportunity in front of women, but like yourself, I just feel like there's certain women that God has put in front of me in this season to say they need to write and they need you to help them do it. And I just feel that this volume 2 will be as beautiful because it's going to be women who really want to find their bold and courageous voice and become unsilenced and realize that they're not stuck. They're perfectly placed. They're going to choose to be where their feet are. And their story is going to become the chapter in this book that one woman needs to hear to know that her life can be different too.
Do you feel like you got closer to God and these women that are in this book collectively got closer to God as they wrote?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's undeniable because the types of stories that are being shared are so intimate, so tender. It requires like scary levels of vulnerability. And without God meeting you in those places, it does feel impossible. Knowing that he is there in the details and you are standing where you are because of what he's done, you build this confidence, like, I'm going to do this for him, not for me. And he's going to put it in the hands of the woman that needs my story. My story will become a gift for someone else. Then all of a sudden you feel so confident to go into those intimate, vulnerable places, be fully exposed in a way that is still graceful and protected, but gets a message across that's going to resonate with a woman in a very different way than a typical story would.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Awesome. I love everything you said, and I would keep you here all day if I could. But can you tell me, so we can find the books on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me where people can find you outside of the book? So if they're interested in the program or reaching out or talking to you more, where can they find you for more support?
Yeah, the big thing in the books, there is a QR code to directly get in contact with me. My favorite place to hang out is Instagram, Melanie_D_Wilson. I have it set so everything I post on Instagram goes to Facebook, but I love hanging out on Instagram. I do respond to Instagram messages, Facebook messages, emails, text messages. Like, I literally am available because I want you to know that you matter and the support is there if and when you need it. So shillrise.com is my website. And again, on there, there's all kinds of easy ways to tap and get in contact with me. There's testimonials and just a beautiful story of the evolution of all of this on the website too. And I do my best on Instagram with not trying to follow all the trends, just be authentic and me. And this is it, because that's so challenging. But I feel like God puts my message and my account in front of the right women at the right time. And I just keep showing up because I trust in what he's going to do. So yes, I'm always available, but like I said, Instagram is my favorite place to hang out, stories, reels, posts, just all the good stuff is there. But yeah, so those are all places to get in touch with me.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
Gosh, that's a great question. Should have asked me, but didn't. I think that if I could finish this on one final note, it would be that no matter who you are, where you are, what you've done, or what's been done to you, you are right where you need to be. And that space is temporary. And I can help bridge the gap from where you are to where you're called to be, because you are anointed for an assignment. And I don't care how many people are doing something that's similar, it's your anointing, and then they can never be who you are and who you were created to be.
Amazing. Wonderful. I loved all that so much. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was wonderful.
I'm glad. I was a little worried there because we're like rural area. I'm out on a farm and we have a satellite for internet. And I got the message, hey, storm's coming. And it started thundering and lightning and like torrential downpour. And sometimes when it gets like that, my Wi-Fi goes out. So again, like, okay, God, this timing was perfect. Here we are. Internet's working. We got it.
I have the same issue. I live in a very rural area in the mountains now that I've moved back to Pennsylvania. And when it rains even a little bit, I lose internet completely. So that's why I came to the coffee shop today, because I know their internet is more reliable than mine.
Oh, good for you.
So that worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Divine timing.
Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you again. And you can check out the show notes for all the links to find Melanie. And please go check her out. Follow her on Instagram. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Alignment Blueprint.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Alignment Blueprint. I hope you enjoyed and got at least one takeaway. Liking what you hear? Subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you listen from. And don't forget to join me over on Instagram at CallieTony_. That's at CALLITONY_. Talk soon.